There's a story that's been haunting the internet for years, a tale that leaves chills down your spine and a lingering sense of unease. It's the story of the Smiling Man, a creepy man that leaves no one unscathed. Brace yourself, because tonight we're going to be diving into the depths of this terrifying creepypasta and exposing the truth behind its mystery. The story begins on the r/Let's Not Meet Reddit in 2012. The post reads, "About 5 years ago I lived downtown in a major US city. I had always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was definitely not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go on long walks to spend time just thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to be afraid. I used to always joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in this city were polite, but that all changed in just a few minutes on one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning. I was walking near a police-patrolled park, quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight. Very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street to loop back down my apartments when I first saw him. At the far end of the street, on my sidewalk, was a little silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but finished each step with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close to the road as I could and gave him the majority of the sidewalk to pass by me. The closer he got, the more I realized how graceful he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer and closer, and still I couldn't even make out his face. His eyes were wild and wide, head tilted straight up looking at the sky. His mouth formed a painfully weird cartoon smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer to me. I took my eyes off of him as I crossed the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and he had stopped dead in his tracks. He stopped dancing and was standing there with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I put about a block and a half in between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me was completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to see where the man was standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved, until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance of the shadows, but he was certainly facing me. I looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked I stood there for some time, staring at him. He then started moving toward me. He took giant, exaggerated tiptoed steps, as if he were some kind of cartoon character sneaking up on somebody. Except he was moving very, very quickly. I like to say at this point I ran or pulled out pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I stood there completely frozen as the smiling man crept up towards me. He then stopped again, about a car's length away from me, still smiling. Still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted the first thing that came to mind. What I meant to say was, "What do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. But what it came out was a whimpery what. Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they could definitely hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't seem to react at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, and started dance walking away. Just like that, not wanting to turn my back on him again. I watched him go until he was far enough away, and almost out of sight. Then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see a stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night and never went out on another walk again. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane, and that's a very, very scary thing to see. Popping up in dreams. The Smiling Man is also known to pop up in many people's dreams, such as this Reddit user. Last night I was sleeping. I saw the Smiling Man. He had wide bulging eyes and an extremely toothly smile. Very creepy. He asked my name, which I didn't give him. He then followed me throughout my dream, messing with me and all of my friends. Fortunately though, nothing happened after seeing him in my dreams. I just felt at any moment something could happen, not only in the dream, but in my real life. The dream itself just felt so real. I never knew about this guy until I woke up from my dream and remembered the Smiling Man. I ended up doing some research and ended up finding this Reddit thread. So if this isn't proof the guy is real, then I have no idea. So this is just one personal account that somebody had with the Smiling Man in their dream, but there's many. If you look up the Smiling Man subreddit or anything like that, there are tons of stories of people claiming all throughout the world who have experienced some kind of weird dream, or even some cases where they've seen him in real life, just waltzing down the street. Possible sightings. I learned about the smiling man a few years ago, and it had me thinking about something that happened around 3 years ago. I was living in Omaha, Nebraska at the time. I was in high school and walking my dog at night. I could see a man standing at the top of the street up ahead. For some reason, it filled me with an immense feeling of dread. The man looked like he was wearing some kind of suit and a fedora, but I couldn't tell how tall he was. Then he looked like he noticed something to his left and walked away in a really weird, unnatural way. I hadn't given it much thought until I learned about the smiling man today. The way these things just match up just make it extremely uneasy. The London sighting. It was halfway through the lockdown in London and I went for a walk around 8 p.m. with my dog. My dog was walking calmly until we rounded the corner and there was a man looking up at the sky in a very fitted tight suit. He was dancing down the street and was very lanky. He must have been around 6'6" or so. I thought nothing of it until my dog started barking and whining. She started pulling away from the man. I kept walking on through until I saw his giant smile and his eyes were completely white. I immediately ran, knowing I was either in a dream or something else was going on. Either way, I couldn't take any chances. I ran as fast as I could, but he seemed to be unnaturally fast. I sprinted to the small alley and hid. My dog also hid and became silent. The man walked into the alley and shouted in a childish tone, "Wait, come out, I'm lost," and walked past our hiding spot. The air suddenly dropped by at least what felt like 10 degrees Celsius. As soon as he was gone, the air warmed up again. I sprinted to my house and locked the doors and all the windows. While in my house an hour later, I saw a shadow come by outside my door, and I heard the same voice say, "I'm not done with you," and I immediately hid out of the view of the windows. I waited 10 minutes or so and the shadow started to fade. As I went, I heard creepy laughter and slowly got quieter and quieter. I stayed and hid until the next morning, at which the goosebumps after all just went away. I decided to search up this man to see if anyone else had any encounters with him. I saw a few videos on Reddit and some groups. Places he's been spotted. So there's a ton of different places the smiling man has been seen. The most frequently seen, though, are Texas, Nebraska, Arkansas, and even Brazil. Obviously, people swear that they've seen him in their major cities, such as New York and Los Angeles, but there's only a few stories. So that is actually going to wrap up today's video. In conclusion, I would have to say that the smiling man is something that people have actually seen in their real life, on top of seeing him in their dreams. So all in all, I would say that the smiling man is definitely some kind of supernatural creature that has been seen by a handful of people all across the world. We had stories from London, we've also had stories from big cities like Chicago, and even New York. Comment down below if you have seen the smiling man or if you think that you've seen the smiling man in your dreams. Also comment down below what other creepypastas you would like to see me cover, and pretty much deep dive into seeing if they're actually real, hearing real accounts from people who have actually seen the character, and everything like that. Drop a like on the video and subscribe for more.